Put your sunglasses on for this one, guys, because a certain corner of the internet has been glowing quite bright recently. Raid forums, a very popular online forum dedicated to, well, a number of things. Okay, let's get the obvious one out of the way first. This site was really popular for buying, selling, distributing, and downloading free sensitive data like customer records, proprietary source code, and personal information like credit card numbers that has gotten leaked or hacked from various companies throughout the years. Something like 10 billion customer records are believed to have been sold through this site since 2015 till the time it was captured, but that's not all that this site was all about, and not even the initial reason that it was created. So initially, it was used for orchestrating raids on social media and other forums or websites, thus the name Raid Forums. But then later on, it changed to become this marketplace for leaked documents and certain kinds of credentials and cracking because, well, that's a whole lot more profitable. Thus, the reason why everything else not related to this has such few threads and such few replies to those threads. Although, one thing that you may notice is that the anime and manga section under general, it does have quite a bit more threads and posts than most of the subtopics that are underneath cracking. So, important thing to keep in mind, hackers, they really like their anime. So, I guess setting a password after the name of your waifu, not a good idea because they probably know who she is as well. In addition to this website being taken down, the alleged admin of Raid Forums, whose name I'm probably going to really butcher here, Diogo Santos Coelho of Portugal. He went by the name Omnipotent on Raid Forums, which is what I'll probably just refer to him as now. He was charged with 6 criminal counts that are listed here, ranging from conspiracy to commit device fraud, all sorts of different kinds of access device fraud and aggravated identity theft. Also, I should mention this, the guy's only 21 years old, which really sucks to be looking down the barrel of those really heavy charges at such a young age. So we can read through this US Department of Justice's press release a bit, and I'm going to have a link to this in the video's description as well. This goes into more details about the 6 specific counts that he's being charged with. But here, it mentions that Omnipotent, along with all of his other aliases, was a Portuguese national who resided in Portugal. And the Raid Forums website, where all of this illegal activity was taking place, was hosted on a server outside of the United States. So the reason I draw so much attention to this is because it doesn't matter whether or not you are in the United States, whether or not you're from the United States, or if your servers aren't in the United States. Uncle Sam can still reach you if he really wants to. The US has a lot of allies with foreign law enforcement that is going to cooperate with them. Okay, we can see this press release on justice.gov. This is the Department of Justice's official website, that Coelho was arrested in the United Kingdom on January 31st at the United States request, and he remains in custody pending the resolution of his extradition proceedings. So more than likely, he's going to end up in a United States jail unless he gets Epsteined, or I guess if he Epsteins himself. So this is what I'm talking about, where just because you're outside of the United States doesn't mean that the Alphabet Boys can't get you. Okay, if we look at the domain seized banner now that's on the websites and all of its alternative domains, all of its mirrors right now, we can see at the top, of course, Department of Justice, DOGE, United States Secret Service is even in there for some reason. Why not? But then down here, we've got all of these foreign law enforcement. We've got Swedish police. We've got Europol. We got NCA, this is like British FBI or something like that. We got Policia Justicia, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong too, but that's Portuguese feds, okay? So all of these different law enforcement agencies from different governments, they collaborated to get this guy. And they do that for many, many people. Like, this isn't even that unique or that out of the ordinary. Because you might not have known this, but there's an alliance called the 14 Eyes, which includes Australia, Canada, and most of Europe. These governments, they collaborate all the time, not just in cybercrime investigations, but also in mass surveillance. You know, the NSA collecting all of your emails, listening to all of your phone calls. All of these governments are doing the same thing as well, and they're also assisting the NSA with those efforts. So if you have a threat model that includes Uncle Sam, or if you're worried about being in a US jail cell for whatever reason, whether you're a whistleblower or you're like this guy running an online identity theft forum, these countries are absolutely off limits for anything that you're doing. You shouldn't have servers running in these countries. You shouldn't have your email or any cloud servers, banking, crypto, nothing to do with what you're doing can be in these countries. All it takes for one of them to get upset, in this case, the United States, because so many of the companies that failed to secure their customer data and then had it sold, or I guess in some cases, some of them were actually hacked. But many of those companies, they were US based. One that comes to mind is T-Mobile. That was hacked in August of 2021, and it had social security numbers of 40 million people for sale on raid forums. So no infrastructure in the 14 eyes. Your body should never physically be in the 14 eyes. This guy, like I said, he got picked up in the UK at the United States request when he was on vacation there. It doesn't matter that he's not in the US. He might as well have just went and gone to the US and had a picnic on the Department of Justice's front lawn. Doesn't really make any difference if you're in the UK. And it's also worth mentioning that the 14 eyes isn't just those 14 countries that are normally listed, because there's countries that are also affiliates to the 14 Eyes, and they collaborate with them on specific things like cybercrime. So countries like Israel, Japan, Turkey, basically any US or NATO ally is likely to collaborate with the United States in capturing you. And another big mistake that Omnipotent made, which is very similar to a mistake that Ross Ulbricht, the guy who created the Silk Road, made, is that Omnipotent actually had a run-in with law enforcement, okay, years back before he was even arrested. Like I said, same thing with Ross Ulbricht. I think it was something to do with him having fake IDs. And if the stories are true, Ross Ulbricht allegedly brought up the Silk Road to the FBI guy, like he had, or whoever it was he was talking to. He kind of had a habit of doing that, where he would go to ClearNet forums using his regular Gmail account, or, you know, talk to police. Hey, have you heard of Silk Road? It's pretty cool. You should go check it out. Meanwhile, he's the guy running it. But anyway, this Omnipotent guy, he first landed on US authorities' radar in June of 2018 when he was traveling to America. So he got picked up at a, I think it was an airport in Atlanta. Well, he didn't even get picked up. What happened was the government had obtained a warrant to search his electronic devices when he landed. Okay, so they probably knew something before that. I mean, maybe it was a case of mistaken identity. I wasn't able to figure out exactly why they wanted to get a warrant to search his computer in the first place, but they did that, and when they searched it, they found text messages, files, and emails showing that he was the raid forums administrator. Then a couple of months later, he actually emailed the FBI, because apparently they kept his computer. He emailed the agent that was in charge of the case, where his electronics were seized, to try and get them back. And he used an email address called unrivaled@pm.me, which was also used to register rf.ws and raid.lol, which were mirrors for the raid forum site. I mean, dude, how could your OpSec be any worse? I guess Ross Ulbricht is the only example, because, again, if the rumors are true, he's telling cops and feds about the site that he is running, the illegal site that he's running. But even besides that, talking to the feds in any way is not smart. Doing illegal things, having data related to your business when you're traveling to the United States, presumably for a vacation. I mean, I don't even know why he's going to the land of the free in the first place. But that's all really, really stupid. Also, as the feds often do when they seize a site like this, they actually continued running it themselves for a couple of months to try and catch more people, because the site had been seized pretty much since the beginning of this year. I don't know the exact date, but around January or February. And some people noticed that things were sus when the main page was replaced with the login page for raid forums. I think PomPomPerm might have actually tweeted about it, but if you logged into raid forums at any time this year, or really any time prior, really, since the feds would have access to the database as well, it's safe to say that if you had an account with raid forums that the feds know about it. And if you're foolish enough to use the same email and password on anything else, then they have that as well. And as well as your location if you didn't go through Tor to connect to raid forums. So be on the lookout for Alphabet Boys, especially if you were selling anything illegal or doing anything illegal on that site. So to wrap up, OpSec, it really is key when you're doing anything on the internet, but it's especially key if you're going to upset the government in some way. At that point, you really have to have bulletproof OpSec. And there's a lot of things that Omnipotent, whatever you want to call the guy that was in charge of raid forums, could have done better. So like I said, keeping all of your servers, keeping everything out of the domain of the 14 eyes and NATO allies is best. At the very least, have backups of your stuff. And again, this advice goes to whistleblowers or someone who is acting ethically, not necessarily for people doing identity theft. I don't condone any illegal activity. Now, as for keeping yourself out of those countries, that's your best bet. If you're an enemy of the state for whatever reason, because they can pick you up like they did when he was in the UK on holiday, and almost 4 years earlier when he went to the US. Well, they didn't pick him up, they just seized his laptops and stuff. But I get it. Maybe you want to go there to these countries on holiday. You should make sure that nothing goes down with you. And you should also make sure that you have a way to get out. You should have some bail money set aside. You should have a lawyer that's on retainer, because even if there is just some trace little thing that they have you on, right? Because obviously they knew something about this guy for them to go and seize his laptop. He might have been able to fight that, okay? If he had the computer locked down where the feds couldn't have gotten anything on it, and if they wanted to hassle him and try to keep him there in the US, he probably could have fought that and gotten back over to Portugal or whatever country is safe for him. Generally, countries don't like it when you just arrest their citizens on spurious accusations. That's pretty much what that would have been. But of course, in this case, the feds got a lot of information off of his computer, which is insane. Now, I don't know if this guy encrypted his files. My gut tells me no, because if he's doing silly things like emailing the FBI from a dirty email address that is involved in his crimes, he's probably not taking the precaution of encrypting his device. Ideally, your files that you want to keep secret shouldn't even go with you on trips that are for pleasure. Don't mix business and pleasure. Keep it separate. Even if you're involved in legitimate business, you might go to a country, for example, where their airport security or TSA equivalent, they want to search your laptop. If they get their hands on it, you might as well consider that to be compromised. Okay, it happens in China all the time. They steal lots of corporate secrets from the United States. How do you think it happens? Sometimes they go and hack somebody, but other times they just take somebody's laptop at TSA or whatever the equivalent is in China. They make a copy of it, and then they hand it back to you. Or maybe they even plant a bug inside of it to continuously monitor what's going on. All right, if you get your laptop back from any of these feds, you should assume that it's been bugged, especially if you're doing something that requires you to run this very high level of OpSec. And if you absolutely must bring the devices with you, make sure they're encrypted. Make sure you're using strong encryption that at least has no known vulnerabilities or any other flaws that can just allow you to bypass the encryption and read plain text files. And of course, don't use the same email that you use for your identity theft empire to email the FBI and be like, hey guys, can I have my laptop back? I mean, that there is probably the most damning evidence that the feds have at the time. Because look, of course you can do whois anonymization so that regular everyday people can't figure out what email address belongs to a domain. They can't figure out who owns a domain. The feds can figure out all of that. Okay, they're able to always get that from the domain registrar. If you own a website, they're going to figure out whatever the name of the person was that bought that website and that set it up. Now, of course, you could give fake information. Maybe it is or isn't against TOS for whatever domain service you're using, but obviously if you're breaking the law, you probably don't care that much about TOS. And then same thing goes for your payment methods, okay? If you're paying with a credit card, that's got your name on it. You're gonna have to find somebody that accepts cryptocurrency, ideally Monero, or some other way for you to make an anonymous payment with the domain registrar, and also with the VPS service or however you're gonna be setting up your servers. You really wanna make sure that if and when they get you, because you should assume that they're gonna get you at some point. Again, if Uncle Sam really wants you, he's gonna find you. If he found Bin Laden, he could probably find you. So you should make sure that when they get you, that there's not a whole lot that they have on you to begin with so that they can't hold you. Like I said earlier, if you're not from the United States and the United States arrests you and all they really have is spurious accusations, chances are your government is going to try and fight to get you sent back, okay? If you don't have a bad history with them, okay? Maybe if you're like a cartel member or something like that from Mexico and the Mexican government's got a problem with you and you get picked up here in the US, they're gonna say, oh yeah, keep them. But if you're a good, upstanding citizen in Portugal, where this guy was from, and the US picks you up and they're like, oh yeah, we suspect that this guy is the kingpin of this identity theft organization, but we don't really have a whole lot of proof. You know, we didn't get anything off of his laptop because it's encrypted, and he says that he's just not doing anything. You know, he says he wants to talk to his lawyer, blah, blah, blah. They would probably have to let him go. And then at that point, you make sure that you stay your ass out of the 14 eyes and you never go back, because obviously the feds are going to keep working that case and try to get more against you so that they can really hold you. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Omnipotent, you know, it sounds like he's the guy in charge, but he probably snitched on everybody because they have a lot against him. You know, they have really damning evidence. They have a pretty solid case with this guy using the same email address. So yeah, he's probably going to confess to anything that he can to get his sentence reduced. But that's about it for this story. Make sure that you practice good OpSec. Oh, and I know that a lot of people used raid forums for legitimate legal purposes, like learning hacking techniques for pen testing and cybersecurity, because one of the best ways to defend against hackers is to see how they operate, see what techniques they're using. Well, there has been a replacement for raid forums that was created by PomPomPurin. Not sure if I can talk about it on YouTube though, because their community guidelines are sus, but I might make a video about it on Odyssey, just kind of taking a tour of that site, so be sure to follow me there. Link in the description of this video. Like, comment, and share this video to hack the algorithm, and have a great rest of your day.